Photography is more than just pointing your camera and pressing a button. At its heart lies a fundamental concept known as the exposure triangle, a trio of settings that work together to determine how your image is captured. Mastering the exposure triangle is essential for anyone who wants to move beyond auto mode and take creative control of their photography. The three corners of this triangle, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, each play a unique role in shaping your photos, and understanding how they interact is key to capturing the images you envision. Aperture is the first element of the triangle. Think of the aperture as the eye of your camera, a small opening in the lens that can widen or narrow to let in more or less light. It's measured in f-stops, such as f1.8, f4, or f15. A wide aperture, indicated by a small f number like f9.8, lets in a lot of light and results in a shallow depth of field. This is perfect for portraits, where you want your subject to stand out sharply against a softly blurred background. On the other hand, a narrow aperture, say f16, lets in less light but brings more of the scene into sharp focus, which is ideal for landscapes. Shutter speed is the next cornerstone. This controls how long your camera's sensor is exposed to light. It's measured in seconds or fractions of a second, like 1/1000s or 1/10s. Fast shutter speeds, such as 1000s, freeze motion, making them great for action shots or wildlife photography. Slower shutter speeds, like 1/10s or even several seconds, allow more light in, but will blur anything that moves. This can be used creatively to convey motion, like the silky flow of a waterfall or the vibrant trails of city lights at night. However, using slow shutter speeds requires a steady hand or a tripod to avoid unwanted camera shake. The third element, ISO, is a measure of your camera sensor's sensitivity to light. Lower ISO values, such as ISO 100 or 200, produce cleaner images with less digital noise but require more light. Higher ISO values, like ISO 1600 or 3200, make the sensor more sensitive, allowing you to shoot in darker conditions, but can introduce graininess or noise into your images. The trick is to use the lowest ISO possible for your lighting situation, only increasing it when you need to compensate for low light or when faster shutter speeds or narrower apertures are required. Balancing these three elements is the essence of exposure. Imagine you're taking a portrait in soft, natural light. You might choose a wide aperture like f1.8 to beautifully blur the background and isolate your subject. But with so much light coming in, you'll need to adjust your shutter speed, maybe to something fast, like 1/500s, to prevent overexposure. If it's still too bright, you might lower your ISO to 100. Conversely, if you're shooting a cityscape at dusk and want to capture the trails of car lights, you'd select a slow shutter speed, perhaps 1/10s or even longer. To avoid overexposing the image, you'd use a narrow aperture like f11 and keep your ISO as low as possible. Mastering the exposure. Triangle is all about practice. Start by experimenting with each setting individually. Try shooting the same scene at different apertures and notice how the background sharpness changes. Then adjust your shutter speed and observe how motion is captured or blurred. Finally, play with ISO in various lighting conditions to see how it affects image brightness and quality. The more you practice, the more intuitive balancing aperture, shutter speed, and ISO will become. Soon you'll be able to make quick adjustments to capture the perfect shot in any situation, using the exposure triangle not just as a technical guide, but as a creative tool to bring your photographic vision to life.